Professional wrestling, a uniquely American art form whose timeless tales of good versus evil have touched countless generations of fans who have reveled in the ecstasy of the world's greatest form of entertainment. And sometimes it's really, really bad. This is the Obtuse Angles Wrestling Podcast with Kyle and Jeremy.
Oh, yes, sir. Welcome back to the Obtuse Angles Wrestling Podcast, Episode 8. Today, we cover what many people consider to be the worst wrestling pay-per-view of all time, and yes, we have already hit so many.
Heroes of Wrestling!
So bad.
I would say, for my money, this is the worst pay-per-view that has ever happened.
And we will get into that, and we're also going to cover so many.
This is the worst thing to happen to this country since Birth of a Nation. This pay-per-view is the worst thing to happen since.
Arguably, it's not as good as Birth of a Nation. Let me finish. People out there are losing their minds. I know that. Birth of a Nation, while an incredibly horrible and racist movie, was instrumental in the history of cinema because it started cross-editing. I believe it's what it's called. I'm sure I'm getting it wrong, but that's why they teach it in film schools, because it was at least good for some reason.
Really? Is that the kind of person you want to be? Just one of those things who can pull the positive out of any situation?
I'm not pulling the positive out of the heroes of wrestling. If anything,
it's funny that you could pull positive out of Birth of a Nation, but you couldn't pull positive out of Heroes of Wrestling.
That should tell you just how bad it is. We're going to get to that. First, though, all of the pleasantries. We're going to talk about Jeremy's dating life in just 1 second. Got to remind you, though, first of all, what this podcast is. Maybe you just stumbled across it. Each and every single week, Jeremy and I, two former professional wrestlers and two comedians. I am a radio host. Jeremy is a podcaster. We talk about the worst angles in the history of professional wrestling. If you were just coming across us, that was a very homoerotic way of phrasing that, but that's okay. We've already covered last week the Dungeon of Doom. We have covered WrestleMania 9, the Big Boss Man, Kendall from Hill. Katie Vick. That was the first episode, so please go back, check out the old ones if you have not. Also, if you haven't, like us on Facebook for all of the info, the updates on future episodes, supplemental videos and reading materials, and like us on Twitter at Obtuse Podcast. Speaking of which, Jeremy, you were just talking about how we have been tweeted at Obtuse Podcast.
We get tweeted quite a bit because we're popular and handsome.
We are, and we don't have a whole lot of followers at this point.
Don't say that.
I am.
Don't say
well, no, I'm saying that because the ones that we do have are very active. You know what I mean? Like, so the people who have came across the show have loved us, and they've been communicating with us, and that's why I want to reach out to more people. But what are some of the tweets that you read?
So far, I've gotten, and this is a tweet. I'm not going to give out any names here. We'll let them remain anonymous, if you will.
Okay.
But this one here says, I really hope the fat one finds a girlfriend. And I can only assume she's talking about me.
Well, I have a girlfriend. Thank you very much, sir. Now, one of the things that we always talk about, though, is your dating life, and I do want to get to that in a second, because people, for some reason, I have been hit up by people on Facebook and Twitter. They love your stories. They love your story of the flaccid blowjob, not the one that,
as it will now be known.
Well, no, as I famously dubbed it last week, the WrestleMania 9 of blowjobs.
Oh.
It was so bad and disappointing and anticlimactic. We have had a lot, though. Let's see, at Obtuse Podcast. Love the show. Well, thank you so much, sir and or madam. I could not tell by the picture. I'm kidding. You talked about one that you got earlier as well.
Yeah, this one says, just let it be known, I would probably fuck the fat one, but that skinny one is hot as fuck.
Look at that.
She put a lot of U's. She, presumably it's a she.
Oh, so you were reading. I hope it's a man. A lot
of yous.
A lot of yous. Well, they are not going to enjoy all of the homophobic slurs that were yelled by the crowd at today's the Heroes of Wrestling podcast, which happened in 1999. First of all, though, again, tweet us at Obtuse Angles. If you would like us to read your tweets, if you want us to answer questions, please hit us up at Obtuse Angles, and we'll talk about that next week. Jeremy, last week we mentioned that you had a very horrible interaction with a lady on your dating profile on the website that you go. How old do I sound? On the online
on your internet.
On your internets.
Yeah, man, that was boy, that was a tough interaction.
Because this whole show, really, when we started the show, you were in a happy relationship.
Yeah.
And then you remember right before you guys broke up, you said that she was acting weird, but you didn't know why, right?
Yeah, man, yeah.
And I didn't think that anything would come of it. You didn't think anything would come of it. But then the next week you were single. So really the listeners are along with you on this ride. And this is all 100% real, legitimate. We're not making anything up. So have you had a date recently? Are you in love? Have you switched teams? What's going on?
Well, I have been thinking about doing the next half of my life gay.
Really?
Yeah. You know,
you're like 33 years old.
Well, I say second half at 66. Yeah, I'm about middle-aged at this point.
That seems about appropriate.
The way I live, yeah, about middle-aged.
Based on both of our diets, lifestyles, and blood pressures, yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, man. I've been thinking about doing it. I've already got my boyfriend and everything, picked out.
Who's your boyfriend?
It's this friend of mine, and I'd like him to remain anonymous because I don't want to bring what could potentially be my own slice of personal life onto the show. And I'm sure. He doesn't want me to out him. I mean, I know he's gay. I always have. Now, his wife and kids will deny it.
Oh,
but,
really? Like,
yeah.
you think that he's...
I've always suspected he was gay.
Why?
Aside from the Adam Lambert iPhone case and the Freddie Mercury-like mustache and his everyday struggle against the letter S, it was always little things that just kind of tipped me off there,
Really?
Yeah.
Really, things other than that were the little things that...
Well,
what else?
Yeah, it's one of those people you always suspected was gay from when you were, when you were kids. We've been friends since we were children.
Sure, yeah.
And, at a young age, like all the kids, we'd all play together in the neighborhood and stuff, and we'd be playing with Matchbox cars and G.I. Joes.
Oh, yeah.
And, he'd be playing with Barbie dolls. Like, he'd be sitting Indian style in the backyard, 69 and Kens and shit. And we'd get a little bit older, and we'd all play, sports. Whatever was in season, we'd play baseball and football, and he would play with other boys' asses.
Well, that might be.
But I think the thing, though, that really sent it over the top was when he was a little bit older in our teen years. It was the way that he held his boyfriend's dick. He held it funny.
He held it fast. It was weird.
It was weird the way he
held it. It wasn't in a masculine way. It was it was all, yeah.
He held it very dainty and limp-wristed. So I'm thinking about maybe trying to do the second half gay. I mean, why not? I mean, they have parades. I mean, how many straight people just have parades for being straight?
I don't know, man. They celebrate it. And again, I'm not homophobic in saying that I have several gay friends, and hell, I might spend the second half of my life gay. I might be gay right now. I don't know.
It sounds like a good train.
It does look like fun, though, right?
Right.
I mean, they're always partying.
Happy. They're always happy.
They're happy as fuck, man.
Yeah, I mean, gay, it means happy. Come on.
We talk about how we're two comedians, and I'm going to totally credit him because I'm not going to steal his joke, but Tyler Gooch, check him out on Twitter, The Real Gucci. He has a great joke about that local guy. And I'm going to butcher the fuck out of it, but the essence of the joke is, what does it say? When men figured out that they could live without women, the word that they thought of to describe themselves was happy.
Happy.
Tyler Gooch.
They did. They beat the system.
The Real Gucci is that.
They really did. But I had a little happening today on the dating
happening
front.
Really?
Well, it wasn't really on the dating front.
One that did not involve you masturbating into a lubricated sock.
No, it didn't, and nor did it involve the internet in any way, shape, or form.
See, last week you said that you were giving up online dating for good.
Yeah, but only because every girl I've ever met on there is a raging cunt.
See, and again, now, and if you would like to disagree with Jeremy, and again, I made statements last week that pretty much echoed his sentiments.
Now, if you'd like to disagree with Jeremy, you're wrong. But secondly, whatever Kyle's about to say.
If you would like to disagree with me, please tweet us. This is an open dialogue. I would love to have discussions about this, but go ahead.
So I'm at the gas station today, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Here's the thing, man. Okay, it's going to take a little nonlinear storytelling here on my part. I'm at the gas station on my way here, actually, to this to record tonight's episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to the gas station. I'm pumping my gas, and I get out and walk in because I don't pay at the pump. I don't like to do that.
You don't? Why not?
No, I don't know. I don't pay at the pump. I don't trust it.
You're old school that way?
I'm a little old school. Yeah.
I know what you mean, though. I can't tell you how many times I'll swipe my card and it doesn't read or it asks for the zip code. I don't remember the zip code. I move all the time, right? I'm running from the government.
Right, yeah.
And
so I'm marching to the gas station.
Yeah.
To pay for the gas that I just pumped. Because I don't want to steal gas because I've actually been flagged down and chased down by a cop for stealing gas. Inadvertently one time, I just forgot to pay.
Two things. What old school gas station are you pumping gas at that they don't make you pay before?
Well, it's in Lawrenceburg.
Okay.
It's a small town. Everybody knows. I've been going to this gas station since I got my license, like 17 years ago, whatever it was. You
were flagged down by were you doing? Now tell me the truth. Were you doing it on purpose?
No.
The statute of limitations is closed, so you can admit to it.
No, man, I really wasn't. I had something on my mind, and I was just kind of I pumped the gas, and then I had to get something. I went to get my wallet out of the car, and then I went in, and I bought a soda, and then forgot to pay for the gas while I was buying my soda.
Okay.
And I guess they forgot too.
Oh, the old Dr. Pepper trick. We've all pulled that before, right?
And the thing was, I only lived 3 blocks from the gas station, and 2 people that worked there knew me.
Okay.
So I pulled into my driveway, and I shut the car off, and I'm getting some stuff out of the trunk, and a cop pulls in my driveway. He's like, "You're going to need to pay for your gas."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, "Oh shit." Well, here I go to hand him the money. Like I was scared to death.
You handed him the money?
I take a 20 out of my wallet, and I start to hand it to him. He's like, "You need to go back and pay for it."
Yeah, here, officer, run this errand for me, please. Can you also pick up some milk and bread for me while
he's
you're
a
out?
Lawrenceburg cop. I mean, surely he can take time out of his busy schedule of scraping dead raccoons off the road to. To go take care of this shit.
So you are at this gas station in Lawrenceburg. You pump your gas. You walk inside. What happens?
I'm on my way in, and I get my hand on the front door, and I hear someone call out my name, and it was a female's voice. That almost never happens.
Unless it's your mother.
Right, yeah. Not cool.
What? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's fine. I don't want to talk about that. No. So I hear this.
I got weird all this. All right.
I hear this voice call out, and I turn around, and there's this really, really attractive girl standing outside of a really big, nice SUV, and she's wearing scrubs, which for some weird reason, probably something deep-seated from my childhood, I find scrubs incredibly sexy.
I understand. I do too, man. No. Well, you know why? Because they make money.
Yeah. That's probably what it is. She probably has just that she has a job. But, given all the women that I've met online in the last month or so, like if they have scrubs on, I know they have a job and they're automatically, top shelf.
Right, exactly.
They leave the ranks of the PBR and they go right up to the top with the high priced scotch.
So she calls your name out. You turn around. Who is this chick?
I don't know. She knows me, and when I turn around, she says, "Hey," and I wave back at her. I'm like, "Hi, really attractive girl." I don't know.
So so an attractive girl knows you. You don't know her. She calls you out.
Yeah, and this is the best part. This is the real mind-blowing part. Is she goes, "I need to come give you a hug."
Wow.
So I was like, "Yes, please do that now."
Okay, all right.
So she comes like at a jog, like at the very least a really brisk walk.
So she's not even wasting time.
No.
She is getting her some of the Jer Bear.
Yeah, but she was already in her truck. So she had to get out of her truck, run like 40 feet across the parking lot, and come and give me a hug. And she comes over and she just throws herself on me and gives me this huge hug. And she's like, "How have you been?"
By the way, do you ever call her the Jer Bear? Do you ever call yourself the Jer Bear?
I have.
You have? Really? I just came up with that.
So she jumps on me and gives me a big hug.
So she says, "Where you been?" But you have no idea who this chick is.
I have no idea. She looks vaguely familiar. I can't place her. And I've been texting my sisters because I'm thinking she's this chick that used to work with my sisters.
But you don't know. I don't know. What if she's not? I mean, what if this beautiful girl who has money and a job and teeth and all the things that none of your previous dates recently have had, what if she's gone forever?
I really hope not.
What if it's like that episode of Pete and Pete where little Pete hears the song and it's the best song ever, but he never hears it again and the band disappears and drives him crazy?
My God, I just hope I'm not doomed to that sort of fate.
Seriously, that's awkward because one, you're in an interaction with somebody who clearly knows you and knows you well, but you don't know who they are. So, so you're faced with: do I admit to her I don't know who she is, risk pissing her off just so I know her and I can hit her up?
And it's not that she knows me well, but she thought enough to jump out of her truck, run across the parking lot, and straddle me right near the front door of the gas station. And give me a big hug around my neck. Well, my mom won't even do that.
Exactly.
I could go 6 months without seeing my mom, and all I would get was like a hey.
Is that why it got awkward earlier when I mentioned your mom? Is that why you didn't want to talk about it? Because
I still don't want to talk about it. Okay. Now you keep circling back to it. We talked about this. There's certain things, Kyle, that I don't want to talk about on the show. Why are you doing this?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to dig deep. This is a podcast. This is what podcasts do. I'm sorry.
Well, if this is the way it's going to go, then I can take it off if you want, if that's how you want it.
I'm sorry. I love how
fun, man. We'll get back to this.
I love how you mentioned the limp blowjob a couple weeks ago, but this
this is just too much.
This is too much. I'll talk about how I got the worst blowjob that I couldn't get hard for, but nothing else.
Okay,
I'm not getting personal on this.
You know what?
Show.
In all fairness, you have Axel Rotten lay down with his head in your lap, and you tell me how hard you get.
No, hey, I've been there, bro. Trust me, I have. Oh God, hold on. In my mind, I was gonna say I've fucked some chicks, but I almost said I've worked some chicks.
Well, in a way, you did.
Yeah. The old Memphis pop spot.
No.
So your dilemma now. Your dilemma is that there is a beautiful girl who gave you a hug. You don't know what her name is. You need to figure it out. If your sister doesn't know, maybe there's a chance she's listening now. But, we have a lot of mutual friends who live here in Kentucky.
That's right.
Who are in the same social circles we are. So if you know a blonde girl, Lawrenceburg, drives a truck, scrubs, please let us know.
Really attractive. Not just like regular, normal attractive, but like a way too attractive for me kind of thing.
At Obtuse Podcast. Hit us up. We are socially media active.
We really are.
This episode. It's getting to the annoying point of WWE. Hashtag pissed.
And I looked at the finger and there was no ring. So that's always a good sign.
Yeah. See, we're at that age now, man. Well, granted, we're in Kentucky,
I only
so
started
17
doing
is that
recently.
age. Yeah.
My friend Jordan actually taught me that trick, and it's so weird because it's something I'd seen in movies and other people, other places talk about. You always got to look for the ring on the finger.
Yeah,
I never really did that because that shit never really mattered to me.
Well, I'm 29, and I started dating my girlfriend about a year and a half ago. So I was, late 27, which again in Kentucky is like 45 everywhere else because everybody's married by this point. But I didn't even look for the ring either. Yeah. I'd go to a bar, I'd talk to a chick forever, and then all of a sudden she'd say she was married. Then I'd look at the ring and go, shit, why don't you know what I mean?
Did you ask her, how married are we?
Yeah.
How married are we?
Happily married? Well, that's never stopped me before, but that's another podcast in time.
So she starts making small talk, right?
Uh-huh.
How have you been? I've been really well. You look amazing. How have you been? Like I remembered her. I started pretending that I remembered her.
Well, you have to by that point. I mean, the ship has already sailed on you admitting that you don't know her.
Right, yeah. I said, you look great. I said, I hardly recognized you. And hoping that, that she would just be like, well, I did something with my hair. Or I did something.
Yeah.
But no, she didn't.
Apparently
she's looked exactly this hot her whole life.
And exactly the same her whole life.
But it was real awkward. It was real awkward. I was like, you look, I hardly recognized you. And she just goes, yeah. That was
yeah, you have no reason.
Yeah. She's like, well, I got to run, but I saw you and I had to come over and give you a hug. And I was like, well, it was really good seeing you. And I didn't even think to go, we should catch up sometime. Here's my number, because my brain doesn't work like that. Like I'm in my truck and it's hot outside and I'm sweating balls and I'm just exasperated and I hate the summer and I'm trudging along into this gas station and my mind can't even process the fact that not only did a hot girl know who I was but made a point to get out of her car and run across the parking lot to jump on me and hug me. I'm still processing that, and of course I didn't even take the time to go, we should we should exchange numbers.
Well, that's okay.
Catch
because
up sometime.
At least you know that she expressed some interest in you, even if it was as a friend. You know that she talked to you. So hopefully we're going to get to the bottom of that. And we're going to get to Heroes of Wrestling in just 1 second. But we've mentioned several times that both of us are former workers. I mean, you worked for a long time. You had a lot of hardcore matches, probably a lot of undiagnosed concussions.
Probably.
The information is just being released now of how bad concussions are. What if you knew this chick? So what if you were like engaged to her when you were like 22?
Like this is like a Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Right, but you took a chair shot and it's gone. Like it's just all gone.
Dude, I think we just wrote a screenplay.
Yeah.
For a movie of the week, man.
Eternal Sunshine of the Gigged Mind. That's what it is. Of the gig forehead. All right.
I would pay to see that, man.
My goal, my dream is to get to the bottom of this mystery. Mainly, just so you're happy, but mainly so we have more content for next week's show.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, yeah.
But again, tweet us at Obtuse Podcast.
And again, we'll run over. Here's what we know. She drives a big black SUV.
Mm-hmm.
She wears scrubs, so obviously she works in healthcare of some type.
Cute girl, Lawrenceburg, Kentucky, blonde hair.
Yes, blonde hair, big, nice truck, and scrubs.
We're going to get to the bottom of this unsolved mystery. So,
right.
Heroes of Wrestling. October 10th, 1999, the Casino Magic Hotel and Casino, which seems a little bit redundant, in St. Louis, Mississippi.
St. Louis, Mississippi.
Oh,
Bill Stone, you tried so hard.
Bay St. Louis, Mississippi is the place. Now, this is going to be the first event, the first entry that we have into this episode in this show that is not WWE, WCW, or ECW. This is a one-shot. This is a one-shot deal.
Yeah, it's like a one-shot comic book. Yeah, everything's pretty much built up, told, and then wrapped up all in one paper.
Although it was not intended to be that way. It was supposed to be a kind of a mini promotion that toured across the country, had several pay-per-views. The whole concept of this was this company in 1999, we've mentioned it before, wrestling was as hot as it maybe had ever been and possibly ever will be.
Yes.
So in order to capitalize on that, an enterprising man named Bill Stone, who was the president of Fostone Productions, organized this pay-per-view, and it was supposed to be a throwback show.
And I think this show is exactly what happens when a mark has millions of dollars.
Yes. And no vision whatsoever.
None, not even a little.
Yeah, well, Mark had millions of dollars, and he wanted to put on a throwback show. Here was the problem. By 1999, so many of the guys who were big names in the 80s and the early 90s were still wrestling and under contract in WWF and WCW. I mean, your Hogans, your Flairs, your Savages, even your Lugers and your Barry Horowitzes were all locked under contract.
Yeah, but oddly enough, the doubleheader main event for the show, virtually none of the wrestlers involved were under contract anywhere else. As a matter of fact, I don't think any of them had really worked anywhere substantial in a few years at that point.
Well, for a while. I mean, we're going to get to the main event, but yeah, I believe Yokozuna had been. Well, WWF sent him to the Fat Farm, and that did not work out for old Yoko. So we start off, and this thing was advertised as Gordon Soley was going to be the announcer, and Gordon Soley had not announced on TV in a while. Many people still argue to this day that he is the greatest announcer of all time.
I will make that claim.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's the greatest. Gordon Soley is hands down my favorite commentator in wrestling history.
Yeah. To me, he's number 2 behind JR.
Yeah, JR fan, yeah. No, and that's reasonable. Gordon Soley, and this whole Gordon Soley actually being billed as being the commentator for it, and him not actually being able to make it because of his for health reasons.
He had declining health. He died of throat cancer a little bit later on.
That is letdown number 1 for this show. Don't get me wrong, this show is chocked full of letdowns. But the 2 major letdowns, this is one of them. Gordon Soley not being able to make it and then dying soon after.
Yeah. Well, they thankfully were able to get a guy, God, I believe his name was...
Not going to be able to make it to the show? I've got throat cancer.
That's how he called in. Oh, yeah, he just called in. Actually, he might have just called in because they seemingly got a guy off the fucking street to be the announcer. I'm looking up his name right now. Randy Rosenblum. Okay.
Rosen.
To be fair, Randy Rosenblum is not the worst announcer I've ever heard. He had a decent voice, but he clearly had no understanding of wrestling whatsoever. And we're going to get into that as we cover the show. But he called a drop kick different things. Drop kick, one of the most basic maneuvers in wrestling.
Right.
Easily around since at least the 30s, I'm assuming.
Since wrestling period.
Under the same name. He called it at one point a flying leg kick.
Yeah.
And he called it a leg drop. So in your first match, when your head announcer does not call a drop kick by the name because he does not know it, that might be a bad sign.
I think he actually went to the Taz School of Commentating.
He might have, yeah. The three-handle family credenza. It was the moss-covered three-handled family credenza. The color commentator of this was Dutch Mantell, who did a fantastic job.
Oh, yeah, Dirty Dutch.
Dirty Dutch, he has announced all over. Before that, a few years earlier, he announced for Smoky Mountain. So at least Dutch makes fun of Randy Rosenblum's complete ineptitude at his job the whole show. So at least that is perversely entertaining. I would say the first disappointment, though, on the show comes before we even hear good old Randy Rosenblum, when they show the video package that opens the show up. Now, clearly, Heroes of Wrestling is not a promotion. They do not have access to WWF or WCW's tape catalog, so they have to go to their stock footage, right? So at the beginning of the show, when they're showing Yokozuna and King Kong Bundy, They have clips from them wrestling in literally a high school gym.
Yeah, like indie shit. Yeah.
Right, but it's like, these guys are legends, and it shows them in a high school gym. It's like, really, are they? Because you're not.
You can see like two fat guys in the front row eating nachos in the background, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, well, that's pretty much all you saw at this show, too. They claimed it was a sellout. Apparently, a little over 2,000 people were packed into this arena. It looked fine. It didn't look wonderful on TV, but it was a throwback show, and that's what shows looked like back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So I'll let that slide. But I'm not going to let the horrible camera angles and pretty much every other shitty thing about this pay-per-view go. The first match of the show, the Samoan SWAT team, Samu and the Samoan Savage, with a guy named Paul Adams, defeat Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers, the lesser parts of both of their respective tag teams, I think. And this was one of two tag team grudge matches. Why was there a grudge? We have no idea, but there was a goddamn grudge match on this show.
There's a lot of grudge matches on this show.
Yeah, well, I think the biggest grudge was the paying fans had with this piece of shit pay-per-view after they watched. People paid $20 up front. I mean, and it really, it should kind of give you an idea of how the rest of the show is going to go when, at the beginning of the show, Dutch Mantell's microphone barely works. I'm going to have a great show here tonight. Going to take a So, yeah. Now,
that was a wonderful impression.
Thank you so much. Here's what I love. Here's what's so magical about this is there is an announcer, and I could look up his name, but nobody gives two shits about him. But he opens up the show, and he tries to get his own catchphrase over. In a total boom goes the dynamite moment.
Oh.
He tries to have a let's get ready to rumble, but instead he says, and I wrote it down, quote, "So throw down your toys and get out of the sandbox because playtime's over. Because tonight, somebody is going to get their ass whooped tonight in here." That is
tonight.
Yeah,
just one more tonight for good measure.
He literally said, tonight, somebody is going to get their ass whooped tonight in here.
This guy's like the king of run-on sentences.
He is. I'll say this, though. Apparently, everybody in Mississippi in 1999 was high on cocaine because as shitty as this show was, nearly everything was over.
Yeah.
That's what struck me. I'm watching this, and even now, everything would be booed out, but they loved it.
I think it was the whole nostalgia angle, which is what he built the whole show. I mean, the whole show's built around people that want to come back and see wrestlers that they grew up watching.
Right. But the odd thing was that there's a bunch of kids and young people there who have no frame of reference for Tully Blanchard or Sweet Stan Lane or anybody else. So, So the first match happens. It's okay. It's fine. It is what it is. Probably the best match of the show, and that's pretty bad. We cut to a vignette that shows Sensational Sherry walking with George the Animal Steel towards the camera. Apparently, Sherry has ditched her evil ways and is shacked up with George the Animal Steel. I'm pretty sure that in kayfabe terms, there is a crime being committed there on Sherry's part if she is having sexual relations with a man who has an IQ of probably 23.
Yeah, who can braid his back hair.
Yes. But Randy Rosenblum, who clearly has never announced a wrestling show in his life, ruins the obvious twist, right? The obvious twist is that Sherry, who is evil, is going to turn on the dim-witted George the Animal Steel.
Yeah.
And Randy, the announcer, goes, well, Sensational Sherry is here, but George Steele, at least for right now.
Whoa.
Why? Why would you?
Kayfabe, brother.
Kayfabe, brother. Kayfabe. That is akin to in 96 when the third man was announced. Remember, Bash at the Beach 96, NWO. Hogan walks down the aisle getting ready to join the NWO. Tony Schiavone's on commentary along with Dusty Rhodes. You know, Dusty Rhodes, who's bad now, boys? Here we go. And then all of a sudden, Bobby Heenan goes, yeah, but whose side is he on? Why? Dude, you know he's turning heel. Right. It was only salvaged by Dusty Rhodes.
It was like Tony Schiavone giving away that Mick Foley was going to win the heavyweight title on Raw.
Yeah, but at least that was on purpose.
But that come back and bit him on the ass because as soon as he said that, the ratings dropped because everybody switched over to watch Foley take the title.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I mean, God.
Fuck Tony Schiavone.
I like Tony Schiavone. Why do you hate Tony Schiavone?
Because he's a shitty announcer. Why do you like him?
I don't know. I mean, but I think that he is truly the
nostalgia.
I think he's truly the greatest commentator in the history of our sport. I mean,
you get the fuck out of here. You pack up your shit and get out of here.
You know, he actually Tony Schiavone tweeted at me. I asked him a question on Twitter, and but here's the he tweeted me back twice, but I think it was because he forgot that he answered it the first time. So apparently, good old Tony has had a couple of concussions too. See, he's like a nice guy though. A nice guy. We then go to the match, and Michael St. John, before that, though, talks to an angry man by the name of Julio Fantastico. And Julio Fantastico, I looked this guy up. He wrestled, and he was a jobber.
Is it AAA?
No, not in AAA. He was a jobber in WCW,
I was going to say, that's quasi-racist because I automatically assumed that he was from Mexico.
Oh, Julio Fantastico. Worked under a hood, right? Yeah, it was that guy. Yeah. Well, see, he interviews him about a match with Too Cold Scorpio that he's going to have coming up later in the show. But first, we have to get to Sensational Sherry managing George the Animal Steel against Greg the Hammer Valentine. And this 6 minutes and 37 seconds, but it felt every bit of 4.5 hours, by the way. And here's what I love is that, again, to go back to Randy Rosenblum, so far this entry has been almost exclusively about how shitty Randy Rosenblum is. But I love how Valentine, in order to get heel heat, takes George Steele's shirt over his face. And Randy Rosenblum says, quote, well, he can't see with that over his eyes. The astute commentary of Randy Rosenblum right there. At which point the referee's back.
Real student of the game.
Yeah, the referee's back is turned. George Steele is bashed in the head with a chair. At which point Randy, the commentator, says, and I quote, "That's unethical."
Well, his commentating is nothing if accurate.
Well, that is true. That is true. So Sherry, shockingly, as predicted earlier in the night, turns on George the Animal Steel by handing Greg the Hammer Valentine a foreign object, which, if you're keeping track of, is the first taped-up foreign object of the night in the second match.
One of many.
One of many that we will see later on. George Steele wins the match. It doesn't really matter because the whole thing was shit. We go to the third match, which Captain Lou Albano decides to join us during on commentary. And you go, well, fuck, I mean, it's Captain Lou Albano, right? I mean, a legend of the ring. He's great in the mic. He can run his mouth.
Absolutely.
I have heard autistic mimes sound better than Lou Albano does on the stick at this point.
Oh, God. I hope that is taken out of context one day.
That's not even ethical in context.
That's not even.
What would Randy Rosenblum if he heard me say that? That's unethical. So, So,
Like, calm down, Randy. It's not like I pulled someone's shirt over their head. Shit.
You're right. So Captain Lou Albano keeps calling Julio throughout the night. Julio, look at this guy up here. Julio. He then calls Heroes of Wrestling the greatest event that he has ever been a part of in his 40-year-plus career in professional wrestling, immediately throwing his credibility right out of the window. I'll say this, though. The match, Too Cold Scorpio versus Julio, not that bad. Not that terrible of a match.
It's hard to put Too Cold Scorpio in a match and it not be good.
It is, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this. This is probably Too Cold Scorpio's worst match I've ever seen him in.
Yeah, and it still wasn't that bad. It was still the best one on the whole card.
No, Fantastico blows a couple of spots. He tries a slingshot press to the outside. He botches it, at which point he commits the error that you never do as a worker. He redoes the spot, which nothing makes you look more Bush League if you do a spot twice in a row when it doesn't connect the first. We'll try it again. Maybe he thought this was a tape show, even though it was live on pay-per-view.
Yeah, they'll just cut it.
Before,
just cut it in
again,
editing.
I'm going to say this a third time, $20. People paid $20 for this piece of shit. So Scorpio and Fantastico battle out into the crowd in this, which is the third match on the card. And the lighting is so bad that we can't see where they are in the arena. At which point, Randy Rosenblum, the ever-astute commentator, calls the own promotion out on it. At this point, I think he's just fucking with us. He's shooting. He goes, well, I can't even see what's going on here. Which,
he's got to be fucking with him at that point.
It is. So Scorpio goes up top, and Albano screams, quote, he's going up, Dutch, he's going up. And then Dutch goes, okay, yeah, Lou, he's going up.
Yeah,
okay.
no, we get it.
Dutch Mantel, who, by the way, is playing the heel in this match.
Yeah.
So Scorpio wins the match by hitting the tumbleweed, the corkscrew leg drop off the top rope.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, most of the time it's beautiful.
No.
In this match, Too Cold Scorpio misses it by about 5.5 feet.
Wow.
It looks absolutely ridiculous. And here's the great thing. At the end of the match, we cut back to Dutch Mantel, Randy, and Lou Albano on commentary, and Randy announces that the new commissioner of Heroes of Wrestling is going to be Captain Lou Albano. At which point, Albano acts like he has no clue that this was even going to be said. Like he has no. He's like,
oh yes, shit just got real.
I'm going to call it right down the middle. Not partial. It's which it really wouldn't matter because there would be no Heroes of Wrestling 2 for reasons that we've already mentioned and will continue to mention, and that will become evident as the show goes on. We go to the fourth match. The Bushwhackers take on the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov in the second tag team grudge match of the evening.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, even though the Iron Sheik was...
Didn't they have a... I'm sorry to cut you off. Didn't they start the USA chant? USA, USA.
Oh, yeah.
When you have one half of one tag team is from New Zealand and the other are from the Samoan Islands.
Well, what made it far worse was when the New Zealand tag team was leading the USA chant. And even Dutch Mantel on commentary is like, well, they're from New Zealand. Like it didn't.
Hey, what the hell are you people doing?
Let me tell you something. You think you've seen stalling before in a match? Even though the Iron Sheik was 15 years younger in this match, he was still no spring chicken in 2000.
Right.
I mean, and the Bushwhackers at this point also were not very mobile. So we were graced with a match that had all of the mobility of a cat that had just been hit by a car. The Bushwhackers won.
You use your tongue prettier than a $20 whore.
Oh, you shut your mouth. I believe this would be our second wrapped foreign object of the match. We now go to match number 5, Tully Blanchard and Stan Lane.
Well, that was the name of the pay-per-view, wasn't it? Heroes of Foreign Objects?
Exactly, Heroes of Foreign Objects. Now, granted, to me, Tully Blanchard and Stan Lane, both great workers, both legitimate heroes of wrestling. You go, well, surely this is going to be a great match, right? This is going to be the match that saves the show.
I wanted to believe.
No, it was not.
Not even a little.
They did. The best part of the whole pay-per-view was probably they showed a vignette from earlier.
When it went off.
Yeah. The second best part of the pay-per-view was when they show a vignette from earlier where Tully Blanchard steps outside of a limousine. He's interviewed by a guy, and then Stan Lane attacks him from behind. He throws him in the trunk. He beats him up. They then cut to an interview that's happening now with Tully Blanchard, where Tully cuts a promo on Stan Lane that is a beautiful, amazing promo that reminds you all over again why you love Tully Blanchard.
Sure. Yeah.
And then he gets in the ring, and you forget why you love Tully Blanchard.
Just as quick as you learned, you forgot.
They tried, man. They worked their asses off out there, but it was not good. And not only that, but the match ended when they did a spot where Stan Lane suplexes Tully, and he has a bridge, and both of their shoulders are down at the same time. 1, 2. Tully gets the shoulder up before 3. Tully wins, right? But here's the thing. Because of the shitty camera angles, we didn't see Tully get his shoulder up.
I know.
So you're watching it, and even Dutch and Randy go, what just happened? What the hell just happened?
Yeah, these are camera angles that made Kevin Dunn look like Martin Scorsese.
Yes, they are. The whole thing makes Kevin Dunn. Yes. So we go to the 6th match of the evening, where they are practically promising buckets of blood. It's Abdullah the Butcher with Honest John Cheatham.
Oh, God.
Who, he's from Paducah, Kentucky, apparently. He mentioned it when he joined the commentary team on the show.
Yeah.
Abdullah the Butcher versus one-man gang. They fight to a double count-out because Lord knows you got to protect both guys when you're doing a one-shot show.
Abdullah the Butcher versus one-man gang, and they both fight to a who-gives-a-fuck finish.
Exactly. Well, and that's what we got was a who-gives-a-fuck
I
finish.
cannot think of one match I would rather not watch.
Well,
actually, no, I can't. I can think of like at least 50 off the top of my head.
But this is up there.
That's a bad match. It's a bad match.
This is top 100, most definitely, right?
I know, and again, I can't feel like I'm turning heel against my generation, but I just never was a big Abby fan.
You know, I ate at Abby's restaurant.
Did you really?
It's called Abdullah the Restaurant's House of Chinese Food and Ribs.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's Abdullah the Butcher's House of Ribs and Chinese Food is what it is. Yeah. The food was very good. I liked it a lot less years later when I would find out that Abby has tuberculosis. But, I'm sorry. Hepatitis. It's hepatitis. Tuberculosis.
Well, you bleed in the ring with like 17,000 different people. You're bound to get it.
Well, that's what gets me is like every time I watch an Abby match now and there's blood everywhere, I'm like, ooh.
I got to where I can't even fuck a damn tranny anymore. I don't end up with Hep C.
I'm going to take that I want you to run for office one day so bad, just so I have so many.
Are you going to run against me and start playing all these snippets?
Oh, my God,
And at the end of each one, I'm Kyle, and I approve this message.
Although you would definitely get the tranny vote. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah.
You would tear that up, son.
I would probably wouldn't get much in the Hispanic or black communities.
Right.
But in the LGBT, man, that would be huge.
Oh, you'd be amazing. That's right.
Mostly the T's.
Abby, and some of the Q's. Abby is just the shits in this match. He is as immobile as I've ever seen a man.
I hate to see it, man, but he's been the shits for a really, really long time.
Yeah. Oh, my God, yes. What's so funny is that when I went to Abby's restaurant, he wasn't there at the time, and I asked the people, hey, man, is Abby coming by? And they were like, he might, right? And I'm thinking,
I always want to picture him with like a white paper hat on working the grill and shit.
Right. Well, he showed up. He showed up to the restaurant that day as we were leaving. I was there with some buddies. And I was like, hey, Abby, can I get a picture? He said, cool, nice guy. And I posed with him, and we put our hands, kind of like we lock them in a handshake, right? And we pose for the picture. And right before I shook his hand, he was like, yeah, sorry, boys, I was at the doctor getting my blood pressure looked at. So my thumb is on his hand when I posed for the picture. It felt like his vein was trying to punch my thumb off. The blood pressure was so strong. Which, granted, probably happens when you own a house of ribs and Chinese food.
Yeah, I got to say, I would probably look exactly like Abby. I would put on another 200 pounds and turn black. No, seriously, I would eat I don't even know how you do that, but I would eat myself a different race.
Abby, by the way, in the restaurant, he has a signed photo from Jimmy Carter when he was president that says to Abdullah the Butcher, my favorite wrestler.
They should start billing him as old Jimmy Carter's favorite wrestler.
We're into the ring, Jimmy Carter's favorite wrestler. There are so many odd things in that a genial Georgia Southern politician who at one point was the most powerful man in the world, his favorite wrestler was Abdullah the Butcher. I mean, whether or not you like Carter or you don't, whatever, everybody agrees he was a nice guy. Probably too nice of a guy to be a politician.
Right.
So the fact that his favorite wrestler was the most bloodthirsty, you think he vicariously lived through Abdullah the Butcher?
I think he ran around the Oval Office like he'd grab his he'd grab his wife and start stabbing her with a fork in the head and shit.
That's right. That's right. Okay. So we double count out. Nobody gives a shit. 7th match in the show. Jimmy Snuka defeats Bob Orton Jr. And this, by the way, is a single grudge match, which I think is the 3rd time in the show we have a wrapped up foreign object.
That's the 3rd or 4th grudge match on the show.
The reason these two have a match, not because of all the previous history that you could talk about, because that would just be silly.
Yeah, that's stupid.
They show a segment where earlier in the day, Bob Orton, Lou Albano, and Jimmy Snuka are playing poker together. Which sounds like...
You can't make this shit up.
That sounds like a dream I had once. And Lou Albano calls out Bob Orton for cheating at poker, to which point they brawl on poker tables.
I don't even.
So, but here's the thing. They have a match, and it winds up being decent, like at least for the first little bit, because even though Bob Orton's slow, he's working his way around the ring. Jimmy Snuka is much more limber than I've seen him in quite some time at that point. But then Bob Orton works an arm bar for about 2.5 days. Like, you ever hear the old timers like, brother, I worked that arm bar for 10 minutes. I had the crowd with me the whole time. I know this was 1999, but it was Mississippi.
Yeah.
So granted, it probably was like 1979 or the good old days. Because I'm not shitting you. He works that arm bar in the most boring way possible, but that Mississippi crowd
was it over? Really?
Was on fire in that match.
Yeah, I skimmed through that match. I skimmed through the whole pay-per-view.
Well, that's okay because I'm giving you the rundown right now. But he works the arm bar forever, and then all of a sudden he starts to get a, Orton sucks chant. But then he gets and I'm not kidding, a huge chant by people that says, Bob is a faggot. Bob is a faggot. I'm not, but the whole crowd starts chanting it. Like I know it was a slightly different time, but that was totally not socially acceptable in 1999.
Is it ever socially acceptable, honestly? Well, at least they weren't chanting, he's an emo beta faggot.
Right from last week's episode, yes. And at which point Bob stops, walks over, and starts jawing with the crowd. So Bob takes up Snuka to give him a superplex, but what happens is Lou Albano grabs Snuka's legs, Bob falls back, Snuka hits a crossbody off the top, 1, 2, 3, and then they chant for the 2nd time, Bob is a faggot, as he walks out.
That's horrible.
So we go to the 8th match on the card. And what would be the final match in the card? Jim, the Anvil Neidhart versus Jake the Snake Roberts. The
moment I've been waiting for.
The infamous moment to end all moments.
I brought up us doing this episode about Heroes of Wrestling about 6 or 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was one of the first ideas that I threw out, if you'll remember, and I didn't give one shit about the whole pay-per-view. Yeah, it was bad, and it's worth talking about and examining. I only wanted to do this just so I could talk about that Jake the Snake Roberts promo. No, it's beautiful.
And if you're listening to this, you're probably a good wrestling fan, but I know a lot of people listen to this who actually aren't that big a wrestling fan.
Right,
They know us. They like our comedy. So if you've seen it, it's amazing to relive again.
If you never listen to another word that we say ever, please make the last thing you ever do go to YouTube.
Yes.
And type in the Jake the Snake Heroes of Wrestling promo.
Yes. And so here's what happens. Good old Jake, as we've known a time or two, likes to get a wee bit intoxicated, and he's fucked up.
No, he is fucked up beyond all repair.
Yes, in this promo. So the announcer, this poor
He's easily the drunkest thing, the highest thing I've ever seen.
This poor announcer calls Jake over, and to make it even better, he says, "Come on, Jake, the fans want to hear from you." Like all chipper. Jake walks up so fucked up. He puts his arm around the announcer because he can't even stand at that point. Right. And he says, and I quote, "You're in a casino and people want to gamble. You like to gamble, Anvil. Let me tell you, you don't want to gamble with me because I cheat. Okay? I cheat. You want to play 21?
I've got 22.
You want to play blackjack?
I've got 2 of those too."
Now let's examine that for a second.
And there was one more. You want to play aces and eights? Yeah. I've got too many of those.
What? What? What does that mean?
I don't know, but I love it.
And if you are playing 21 and you have 22,
you fucking lose.
You lose.
And blackjack's the same thing as 21. And he just said blackjack twice.
And you can't have 2 blackjacks. At which point, he then makes the cameraman and the announcer look down at the sack on the floor next to him. The sack with Damien in it.
Yes.
Damien, who tragically would die, and Jake would get into legal trouble later on.
Yeah. I was going to say, wasn't that Damien 2 by the end anyway?
Probably Damien 14.
He just gets high and leaves some places.
How the fuck, kills him, doesn't even, loses him at the blackjack table.
He's got a pet store down the street that just keeps replacing a similar-looking snake for a couple of weeks.
So he talks about Damien all through this promo, and the cameraman stays on Damien for a little bit too long because Jake stops talking.
And he's playing with his hair the whole time.
Yeah.
Like he's folding his mullet back up over the top of his head. And
then he puts the hair over his eyes and looks through it. So the camera stays on Damien too long as Jake is talking, and Jake, and I'm going to stand by Jake on this because he actually does make a good point. He goes, hey cameraman, get your ass up here and look at me." Like when you are so bad at your job as a cameraman that a fucked up Jake the Snake is giving you good directorial advice, right. That's when you should probably change your line of work.
Yeah, it's time to look introspectively.
And this poor announcer looks horrified.
He's scared to death. You can tell he's scared to death.
He's scared, of course he is. So he cuts this promo, and then the match starts. Now, this was supposed to be the next to last match on the card, but good old Jake fucked up things so bad that the whole show went home early.
Yeah.
Jake comes down to the ring. He stumbles down to the ring. He's wearing a T-shirt to cover his large man belly and man titties.
That's so sad.
He puts Damien in the ring. He then walks back up the ramp and then out of the arena for no reason. Then comes back out of the entrance without a shirt on. And before getting in the ring, walks over to a fat chick in the front row, grabs her hands and puts them on his titties and rubs them and rubs his man titties.
Oh, I just call that a Friday night.
Absolutely. Exactly. So Jake then gets in the ring and he's clearly he falls down like 3 times. Anvil, by the way, has no idea what to make.
He's completely lost. Yeah.
I mean, Jim Neidhart is trying. He call him Atlas because he's carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders at this point. And so at which point Jake is doing things left and right. Jake is taking bumps. Jake doesn't know where he is. And Jake grabs Damien, that at this point is slithering out of the bag, puts Damien, the snake, between his legs and starts stroking it. Simulating masturbation.
Oh, boy.
Now, you got to think that the guys in the back who are running this show are going, holy shit, we have to stop this. We have to. So they throw King Kong Bundy into this match. King Kong Bundy strolls down to ringside. Now, I've not read anything online that either confirms nor denies the speculation that this was hastily made into a tag team match, but I'm fairly certain it was when you watch it. King Kong Bundy, who is the heel, is backing up Jim Neidhart, who is trying his damnedest to wrestle Jake the Snake. Meanwhile, Neidhart puts Jake in a headlock and he clearly is talking shit to him as he gets, like, God damn it, settle down.
Get your shit together.
Get your shit together, brother. So, but then Yokozuna comes down. Now, again, remember, the main event of the show.
The second main event.
The second main event of the show, what was supposed to be the go-home match, was Yokozuna versus King Kong Bundy.
Right.
But the promoters have tried to salvage this thing by sending both King Kong Bundy and Yokozuna down to interfere in the match, at which point the referee makes it a tag match. Just to stop just to stop Jake from stroking the dick of the snake.
Yeah.
So they make it a tag match. Jake falls on his back and then starts tongue kissing Damien. Neidhart has no idea what to do, so he tags in King Kong Bundy. But right before this spot, Bundy is clearly trying to get Jake to attack him. Bundy is on the apron, and he's jawing with Jake, who won't look at him.
Yeah, just classic heel stuff.
Yeah, but you know, obviously, but Jake has his back turned to him, and Bundy keeps screaming, "Hey, Jake, look at me, look at me." So Jake turns around, and rather than looking at Bundy and, you know, going over to attack him, he flips him off and yells, "Fuck you." So they make it into a tag match, and this is what makes me really believe that this was hastily put together and not intended to be turned into a main event.
Like, this is the thing that did it, not the whole entire show.
Not the whole thing. So Yokozuna, who again has been advertised all night, he's their big draw. He gets tagged into the match. He hits one spot, and then Jake, who is not even the legal man, gets pinned, and the show goes off the air right as Jake is threatening to expose his penis to the crowd.
And everybody starts chanting, "Faggot."
Yeah. No, Jake legitimately is getting ready to pull his dick out, and they cut it. They don't, like, the announcers don't even say goodbye to the fans. Like, they just cut the show, and it goes off the air like 30 minutes early.
You know, I hate to leave this episode with saying, you know, with just all the stabs we took at Jake Snake Roberts.
Yeah.
Because last I've heard, you know, he's been doing the DDP yoga thing, trying to get his life back together. He's been sober.
Yeah, for a while now. I mean, it's got to be a world record.
And good for him, but you cannot pretend like this bullshit didn't happen. Like, that was crazy.
Oh, no. I mean, and to Jake's credit, he's going to be the first one who will tell you, you know, hey, I fucked up. You know,
right.
I
would hope so.
I made, you know, I mean, and good for him. I mean, hopefully he's turned his whole life around. He had a very inspiring Hall of Fame speech at the WWE Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. So good for him, man. I mean, I'm happy for him. That being said, he literally single-handedly ended what could have been maybe a promotion. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if this wouldn't have happened, they might have done a second show.
You can never underestimate just how far a mark with $1 million can really take something.
Well, here's the thing. You know, I don't know what the buy rate of this show was, but they legitimately had over 2,000 people in an arena. Yeah. All of it was over. I mean, some people bought it. You know, you have to think that maybe they'd start running at least non-televised shows, right? I mean,
right.
I mean, if I own a casino and I see that draws that many people, I'm gonna hell yeah, I'll bring that promotion in.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like, well, why wouldn't you? Especially in Mississippi or Alabama or, you know, any of the Crockett territories where they're more nostalgic for the old school. Not because of Jake.
No. Jake single-handedly ended what could have been a decent run of a sizable independent promotion.
Yes, he did.
He single-handedly or single-dickedly.
Single-dickedly. I am going to go ahead and say, and we have covered WrestleMania 9. We have covered Starrcade 97.
Yes.
We've covered ECW December to Dismember 06. This is far worse.
This is the worst pay-per-view that's ever
than all of them. Because at least on those other shows, we would talk and we would go, well, this is pretty good, but this was shitty. And this is good, but almost none of this was good.
No, nothing.
Let's look back. There was a kind of a shitty Too Cold Scorpio match. It was okay. I
was going to say, even the match that had good workers in it, it was still shitty.
And there was a good Tully Blanchard promo.
Yeah. Not so much the match, but the promo, yeah.
And that's it. That's all.
And not to mention that gold that old Jake Roberts spun.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care. I mean, yeah, I know it was bad, but I'm not saying I love it ironically. I'm saying I just fucking love it. I love that promo. You put, those. I put it right up there with every Ric Flair promo that's ever been.
What if Jake was just an amazing character actor? You know what I mean? He's like, oh, I'm in a casino, therefore my character should be drunk enough.
He's method acting.
He was, yeah. Oh, so he put the kibosh on that promotion, and that's going to be the end of this episode, Jeremy. We're going to be checking back in next week. Again, follow us on Twitter at Obtuse Angles. Like us on Facebook at the Obtuse Angles Wrestling Podcast. Help out Jeremy with the aforementioned lady, if you know who she is. And hopefully we're going to come back next week, and we're going to have stories about the two of you getting together and you accidentally getting her pregnant.
I can't. Shit. I hope it doesn't end like that. Maybe I do. Fuck it. No, I hope it ends like that. I'll knock her up.
I hope every episode of the show ends with shit.
That's all I could go to. That's all I had, Cock.
And that's all we have for this week. We'll see you guys next week for the Obtuse Angles Wrestling Podcast. Goodbye, Jeremy.
Take care.